Hey everyone, I have an extra special show for you today. I have a returning guest, someone you all know and love, the one and only April Crossley. How you doing, April?
I'm good. Thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah. Well, let's catch up, everybody, on what's going on in April's world because you're doing some fun stuff, right? You're selling your house. You're going to jump in an RV. You're just going to go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that first.
I tell people I'm going to go be homeless for a while, kind of, and just wander.
Just wonder.
You
Wow.
know, the market is what it is, and it's housing prices are crazy. And we've been in our house 12 years. It's the longest I've ever lived in a house. Because when we first started, I did the move into a house, fix it up as you live there, turn it into a rental. And we were just like, we've been here a long time and houses are selling for like crazy prices. So let's sell it. But I'm an investor. So even
Right.
for my own personal home, I'm not going to overpay or get in a bidding war to buy something else. So I'm like, let's just get in our RV. We usually RV in Arizona for the winter, but I'm like, let's just get in the RV and go. So we're just going to go. And I don't know for how long. We're just going to travel for as long as we want to travel and go see the United States and run our businesses from afar. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, oh, it's very cool. That's pretty cool.
Excited.
It's very cool. You're living a dream many people want. The other thing we need to celebrate, I believe, is your child just went to college. Is that right?
No, he just bought his first house.
Oh, he bought his first house. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a real estate agent. He just bought his first house. So I have a little bit of an empty nest because
That's what it was. Empty nest.
He's my one and only. Yeah. But that's going good. It's funny as a parent when your kids move out, the conversations you have with them where they're like, Mom, I feel like I do dishes all the time. Like,
yes, son.
all I want to do is relax, and there's always dishes in the sink. And I'm thinking, wow, it all just kind of comes full circle after them living with you for so long. So
now, I don't recall. He moved into his house close to you, right? So you still see him weekly?
He's about 30 minutes away. So I still see him. Yeah. And when we travel, cause he's a real estate agent, so his schedules, he makes his own schedule. So he'll travel out and see us and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, my daughter, so I have a one and only as well. She moved all the way out to New York, and obviously I'm in California. So that was tough. I remember that. That was tough.
Yeah.
Well, that's enough of that, Tom. I don't want to be sad. So we'll change the topic. Let's talk about the topic of the day. Again, both of you and I are enjoying success after years of investment. We both are helping people. And something I came to realize just the other day, maybe a month ago or so, no matter how much I talk about, being better financially, being conservative, knowing your numbers, something just hit me. And that's why I reached out to you. And that is the importance of focus. And why I say focus is because it's something I had intuitively because I didn't have time, right? I only had a little bit of time to look at my market. And now that I'm out helping people, I don't know if I want to call it lack. It's just lack of focus. It's like they're spending hours and hours on YouTube or Bigger Pockets or REI Club or whatever it is, and they're not getting anywhere. And that's why I've come back to this thing. And again, it's been from your students, my students, talking about focus. And I wanted to talk about the importance of focus and why people need to actually spend less time in YouTube or Bigger Pockets, because then they just go all over the place and they never get anywhere. So am I crazy or what?
No, it's 100% true. And I call it chasing butterflies. That's what I call it. I'm like, don't chase butterflies, just focus. And honestly, Michael, this might sound crazy or whatever, but I do believe in the importance of networking and educating yourself. But there was a time I was on Bigger Pockets and I would go down the rabbit hole. So with my coaching, people used to tell me, get on Bigger Pockets, answer questions, comment. And I was like, I can't keep doing this because I keep reading articles and I keep going down all these rabbit holes and getting wrapped up in these conversations. The next thing you know, it's like scrolling on Facebook. 3 hours has passed and I've got nothing done.
Yeah.
So I actually got off Bigger Pockets. People will reach out to me now and say, you have a profile in Bigger Pockets, but you haven't been on there. I'm like, I had to get off. It's just like how I get sucked into Facebook. I'm like, I couldn't do it anymore. And I think it's a great platform.
Yeah.
I think it's great, but I think a lot of newbies, when you have a coach, especially, and your coach is like, this is the first thing I want you to do is research your market.
Yeah.
And then when they come back to me and say, okay, but like my friend was talking about Airbnb and someone was talking about this and someone was
Yes.
talking about that. And I'm like, okay, but step one, like it's good to be a visionary and see and dream and want all these things, but just tackle one rehab first or one rental first.
Right.
Then you can start learning the next thing. So I completely agree. People, it's very distracting. It's very distracting.
Yeah, because what I do in my course, I mean, I never thought I would create a course. First off, it was nothing I wanted to do. I'm already got what I got, but it was after a year of being out of work, right? I was financially free, and people kept asking for lunch and coffees, as I'm sure you do all the time. And I got irritated because I would take 30 minutes, 45 minutes out of my day. I would give the answers, and all they wanted to do was chase butterflies or rabbit holes. I think I just found the title of this video, and I'm like, that's enough. I'm going to go document everything I did to learn my market. And folks, it's 20 minutes a day, but it's every day. I've done it for 20 years. 20 minutes a day, usually for me in the morning, but if I miss the morning for some reason, it's in the evening. You could do this around work. I built this portfolio while working a crazy full-time job, right?
Yep.
I don't know why people don't want to hear it. They feel more, I guess they feel more is better. That must be the attitude, right? Like April and Michael are hiding something from me. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said consistency.
Yes.
Because when I know people that work full-time now, and the ones that are really focused will say every Wednesday between 1 and 3, I have off on Wednesdays and I have a lot of other stuff to do, but that's the time I'm going to put into real estate investing. And these are the tasks that you gave me that I'm going to do on that day. Yeah. And for me, I worked full-time too in healthcare, and I would be like, okay, I get a half-hour lunch break. I'm folding letters. Like that's what I'm spending my half hour doing. And it's not the most fun way to spend your lunch break. Like you have to be willing to sacrifice that and give up that. But you really do. You have to have those tasks, and you have to set aside that time and kind of time block it out on your calendar. I still have to do that even when I'm, and I'm not, when you leave your job, it's not like this miraculous, like, oh, I've got all this free time on my hands. I'm busier now than I was when I had a full-time job. So if you can't handle a full-time job and, starting up your own business on the side, you're not going to be able to handle running your own business by any means. Because when you run your own business, stuff's thrown at you all the time, and you have to know how to manage your time to stay on top of that business. Yeah. So again, I just want to give everything I can. What I tell everybody in step 1 of the course is so first you pick your market. I never pick a market for anyone, right? Do whatever the heck market you want, right? Yeah. But what you do is you got to pick what I typically do is, okay, I'll just use Fresno because I know the zip codes, right? Okay, here's Fresno, California. It's 1 million people, too big. I want you to pick a zip code. So I picked the zip code I picked way back in 2001 was 93703. It's called the Mayfair District. Great, still too big, still 20,000 homes or whatever it is. Yeah. And I'm like, what I need to do is 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage homes between 11 and 1,500 square feet. I mean, you need to get granular. Because what I want people in my course to do is I want that first active listing to be somewhere between 20 and 40, because that's how much you can absorb in 20 to 30 minutes. And then I want you to look at that every day for 90 days and just document what's changing, what's going on. Because what I'm trying to teach you is the skill to learn a market. The only way you can do that is to get focused and consistent. And then what comes out of that is what average looks like. Right? Because in a buy and hold investor, it's all about cash on cash return. Every market, every zip code, every area has an average. And once you learn average, you get the freedom to do good and great deals, right? If average is 6, you do 7s and 8s. If average is 2, you do 3s and 4s. And it's so powerful, but so many people think there's some magic button. If they just spend 12 hours a day on Bigger Pockets or 15 hours a day on YouTube, they're going to figure it out. No, it's little time consistently. Yeah. And I feel like if you want to be on Bigger Pockets or listening to stuff on YouTube, like set a limit on that. Like, okay, every day So for me, I'm like, I podcast when I do other things like drive or I'm in the shower. So I'm like, okay, every day I'm in the shower, I'm listening to this podcast. Like, this is the podcast I'm focused on this month because this is what I'm learning about. So for a half hour or whatever, while I'm in the shower and getting ready, I'm listening to this podcast. Or when I'm driving here, I'm listening to this podcast. But don't be sitting in your office and spending all your time doing that. And don't be listening to podcasts about 6 million different things.
Yes.
Everybody wants you to listen to their YouTube video or their podcast. But if you're a newbie, you need to be focused on stuff geared towards newbies, because what happens is I have newbies that will start focusing on podcasts with people who are flipping 30 and 40 houses a year.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I need this system. I need that system. I need this. I need that. I got to research this and research that. And I'm like, why are you doing all that? How about you just try and flip one house?
Yeah.
Like,
what's wrong with one? Let's do one.
Let's just start with one. And that could replace legitimately someone's entire income for a year, depending where they are living and what their market is like.
That's amazing.
So, you need to really not get distracted by like all the podcasts everyone's listening to, and set aside time in your day to do that, and then get off of it. It's just like Facebook. Just get off of it. I focus on what's going to make you money. What's going to make you money? Learning your market and finding deals. What's not going to make you money? Reading about other people's success stories, listening to a million podcasts, and going down the rabbit hole on Bigger Pockets of like commenting and having conversations with people. That's, if you're going there to learn, great, but don't get so wrapped up in it. Yeah.
Well, I feel really good about what I created now. So that's good, because it just smacks you right in the face. Step one, learn your market. Step two, understand the simple math. Right? My spreadsheet's like 12 columns. It's really simple, right? I have an MBA and an accountant. I could create the Uber spreadsheet, but you just don't need it. You just need to be able to I can compare a house with a 20-unit apartment building, because all I want is the cash on cash. Which one's a higher yield, right? I go back to that average yield, and I promise you, if a 500 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath house built in 1920 produces a better return than a 20-unit apartment, I'm buying the house.
The house. Yeah.
Every time. I don't need to sit here and be Grant Cardone and say I own 20 units. That's not the thing. I want the highest yield.
Yeah, I tell people the same thing. I'm like, I'm selling my house and I'm going to travel the country and run my businesses from the road. I don't own 100 units.
Yeah.
Like, I don't so when people tell me I want to own 100 units or I want to flip 60 houses a year, and I'm like, okay, why?
Yeah.
Like, why? And they can't tell you why. It's just what they're told from podcasts, because that's the pretty butterfly. Like, that's the glitter, that's the sparkle. Someone being able to say, I flip 50 or 100 houses a year, and people are like, oh, that has nothing to do with what their bottom line is. And you and I have talked about this before. Yeah. Like, what is your bottom line? What are you netting in your business? And are you actually making money? And you can have a life of freedom doing far less. Now, if it's on your heart to just grow and grow and grow and do so much more, then that's fine. But look at the numbers behind it. Don't just say you want to own 100 units just to own 100 units. Yeah.
I want to take that concept and hit it again. I want to give people permission to think smaller, frankly.
Yeah.
Right. Cause I can't tell you how many people have, when I ask them, well, how much do you need? Right. What is your monthly nut? So, get a little more than that, you're good. Right. I've had more and more people tell me I need 1,000 doors. I'm like, what the hell do you need 1,000 doors for? Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, where does that come from? And then the next number is 100. Do you really need 100? I mean, what's magical about 100? Right. Yeah. I promise you, if I could get the cash flow I needed out of 15 houses, I'd have 15, maybe 18 houses. That would be it. It's okay, people, to think smaller. And back to flipping houses, right? If you can cover your nut and travel the country on 4 a year, how cool is that?
Yeah. And when I first started, that's how you have to back into what your freedom number is, which is exactly what you're talking about. Like, what is my freedom number? So when I first started flipping, to me, freedom was just working for myself and not having to go to a hospital every day and have someone dictate my vacation time and my pay and all that. So for me in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to write down all my income I have now from working at hospitals and all my expenses.
Yep.
And how many houses do I need to flip a year at what profit to get out of my job? That was my focus.
Nice.
So I wasn't chasing all these different things. I was just focused on getting out of my job. So for me, that was 3 flips a year. So I was like, okay, if I can do that for 3 years in a row consistently at X profit, I'm free
out.
from my job. Then I got free from my job and I was like, okay, all I need is 3 flips a year. So I just kept focusing on getting 3 flips a year. Then as I started like getting to know more private money lenders and I started doing different things, I was like, okay, if I can flip more than 3 a year, then I can start giving back X amount to charity, or building like something like everything I do, I kind of like put some kind of purpose behind it. So, but in the beginning, I was focused on getting out of the job. Now I'm focused on other reasons that I'm trying to build more wealth. But in the beginning, you got to get laser focused and back into that freedom number. And it's not as hard as you think when you're focused and you're not so worried about 1,000 units or 100 flips or.
I'm so glad we bring this up because, you know, one of the things I did a lot kind of like 3 or 4 years ago is I was getting invited to all of these real estate meetups to tell my financial freedom story. Right. And in the beginning, I would always go, you know, we approached 200 units, right? And people would applaud and blah, blah, blah. But I kept going to the parking lot afterwards and I kept overhearing people say, wow, good for them, right? Husband, wife, good for them. But we could never do it. That's too big. That's why I stopped telling those numbers. I now talk about 4 rentals. Every story I end with, let's just get to 4.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Right? That's one hand, right? 4. So I really think people need to hear this. You were talking about 3 flips a year.
Yeah.
Everybody should see the ability to do 3 flips a year once you get past 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not 30. It's not 60. We are both giving you permission to think smaller. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And everybody has a different path. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in how people tell them it should be. You should be an entrepreneur. You should be self-employed. You should be this. You should be that. I know plenty of people who are like great investors that I admire so much. They have jobs that they love and are super passionate about, and they have a badass real estate portfolio that they're building on the side.
Right.
And it's amazing. And they like love their career and they're never going to leave that. I have private money lenders that they don't have to work, but they love what they do. Like we try to shove everyone down this path of like all being the same. And it's just not the way it has to be. And it puts so much pressure, especially on newbies, to think like, I want to be like you. I'm like, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be like you. Like, what is your purpose and what do you love and what do you want to do? Yeah.
All right. So what did we cover so far? Stop chasing butterflies, focus. It's okay to have a goal just to replace your income, 3 flips, 4 rentals. These are all great goals, right? Think about how your life changes if you can just do those small numbers. The butterfly one. I think that's the title of this video for sure. That's April Crossley. Stop chasing butterflies.
Yeah. And I think just making it important to you when you're a newbie and time blocking out time to do that. And I mean, I see people do it all the time that have jobs, they have kids, they're mothers and husbands, and you know, the list goes on, but they still do it. So they'll say, okay, every Tuesday from 3 to 6, I'm going to get a babysitter, or I'm going to take my kids to the park so I can work from the park bench because I can't afford a babysitter, but they can go play. It'd be awesome for them and you're getting work done. But you have to set that on your calendar and highlight it with a highlighter and hold yourself accountable. Or to me, it's super important to this day to have a coach for everything that I do. So, because they hold me accountable. It is completely different when someone's coming back to you at the end of a week or the end of a quarter and saying, okay, what did you accomplish? Did you get those tasks done? Also, just to lay out tasks for you, because sometimes as newbies, you don't know what the next step is. You're like, what should I be learning? So that's why you're on Bigger Pockets, just drowning and going down the rabbit hole of Bigger Pockets, because you don't know. But a coach can lay out for you, okay, today this is what you're going to do to learn your market. This is how many deals I want you to look at. And then it's up to you to block out that time. And then you have a coach to hold you accountable for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, for most newbies, it is, you have the time. I tell people it takes 20 minutes a day. You just have to do it every day.
Yeah.
It's not. And then the other thing I get is, well, I can't do it 20 minutes a day, but I can do it 6 hours on Saturday. No, that's not what I said. I said 20 minutes a day. This is not a quantity conversation. It's a consistency conversation because markets evolve.
And I didn't interrupt you, but like when you talk about 20 minutes a day, I guarantee you people are on Instagram or Facebook or Netflix or just like pushing time away.
Let's be clear. I did this when the only way you could get to the MLS was when you plugged in a wire, right? Wireless didn't exist, right? So now with your damn phones, you can find 20 minutes almost anywhere.
Yeah. And I still squeeze it in wherever I can. I mean, yesterday I'm like, you're sitting at the dentist office and I'm like, LoopNet. I'm just like, why am I on LoopNet? Because I want to see what stuff is selling for, what's going up in my area, what's not. And I'm sitting in the dentist waiting room. I have Facebook. I can text people about dumb stuff, or I can be making my business better and be on LoopNet and be like researching things. So every day and every minute of every day, you have that choice.
Yes, I totally agree. Again, everybody has 20 minutes. Everybody has 20 minutes. And again, I'm willing to give you one day off. If everybody wants to take Sunday off because even God took a day off, fine. But 6 days a week minimum, and you can do it. You can learn your market. And the other thing I want to tell people today, kind of what your homeownership story is, today's market is crazy. So this may not be the market to write offers, maybe, but it's the best time to learn because you're going to see stupid behavior.
Yes. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, pay attention. They're like, there's so many investors out there and there's no deal. So I'll tackle this next year. I'm like, okay, but you understand you're missing the boat.
Yes.
Like it's here now. Like if you're learning now and you're learning that market now and you are learning how to run numbers now, the market is not going to stay like this forever. So when it turns, you're going to be ready. And you know who's not going to be ready? The person that was like, I'll take that class 6 months from now or a year from now. And I'm like, you're crazy. Like multifamily is crazy right now.
Yep.
But I'm like fine tuning my multifamily skills and running numbers on properties because I want to be quick and I want to know when it turns, like, and be able to take advantage of things.
Yeah. This is the time to learn. Because again, right, when I was doing this, 20 years ago now, it took me a year and a half to kind of see, because the market was boring. It was kind of, flat.
Yeah.
The market now is like this. Supply is way down. FHA is pumping loans into the program. So you have the blessing, right? The rest of this year is the best time to learn your market because it is so artificial today, which means you're going to be ready, right? If this great forbearance wave and our short sales, foreclosures ever happen, you'll be ready, right? You won't get caught flat-footed. So I keep telling people today's the time to learn, right? Take your shot, know your numbers, right? If your market average is 4%, write a couple offers where you have a 6% yield. You're probably not going to get them, right? People in my Facebook group for the course, they're like, hey, I was one of 18 offers, but I'm like, did you do your numbers? Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's success, right? You took action. You knew the number. You're done. That's a win. Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to get a deal. It means you won. You wrote what was a reasonable offer.
Yeah. Agree. Just like get out there and start writing offers and start learning because you're going to be so quick.
Yeah. And then the other thing I see newbies are, they find a house that they like, right? They run the numbers, they learn the market. Let's just say it makes sense at 200, right? They're one of 10 offers. Then they get the proverbial best and final. They're like, what do I do? I have to offer more, right? Because I have to offer more. That's what you do when you get best and final. I'm like, no, you ran your numbers. It made sense at 200. You can say, you could A, not counter or not be best and final, or you can say, no, here's the offer. 200 is my best and final. And feel good about the process, not the win. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. And along those same lines, what I find is newbies get discouraged very easily.
Yes.
So a lot of times people will come to me and say, how can I work with you? What can I do for you? And if they're local to me, I'll say, you can do drive for dollars, you can do this, you can do that. But if we find a house and then we put an offer on it, we don't get it, they come back to me and they'll be like, well, this is what this other investor paid for it and they got it. And I'm like,
okay.
Yeah. That doesn't mean it was a good deal. That doesn't, just because another investor paid more from you doesn't mean it was a good deal. It doesn't mean the return was worth it. It doesn't mean anything just because someone else paid more for it. It doesn't mean that I would have paid more for it. Like, this was my number. Yeah. And then they almost get like salty with me. Yeah, like,
they get a little pissy.
Like I don't want them to buy a deal, or like and they get very emotionally attached to houses, which I understand because it's exciting. And the longer you do it, the more numb you become to it, which is the good thing about putting offers in and being told no.
Exactly.
Because eventually you're just going to become numb to that and you'll be like, great, on to the next house. Yep. But when people look at a house and they're like, this house could be so beautiful, it could be so great, and this is what they want for it. I'm like, okay, and this is what we're going to pay for it down here. Like, down here. So offer them that, and then they can counter. And if we need to, we can counter back, but we're not going any higher than this. Yeah. And it's hard for them to wrap their head around another investor paid what they wanted. And I'm like,
yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Cause I just had an example, and it's probably been 2 months now, might've been 2.5. So this would have been probably June, right when the market was kind of turning crazy, right? No supply, lots of buyers. There's just a nothing house listed in my market for $200,000. I could have got my 6% return at 180. So I offered 180 or 179 or something, right? And it ends up selling for 220. So I had another investor out there who gave me the listing and or said, hey, this is coming up, offer on it. And he's like, well, why didn't you pay 220? I'm like, well, let me show you the math. Right? Yeah. Here's the math. At 180, it's a 6% in today's market. That's good. At 220, that thing is an alligator. Right? It's a negative cash flow property. And if you've read my book, never do that. Right? Yeah. So that's a bad deal. That's not even an average deal. That's a bad deal. And I'm not going to do a bad deal. I don't need to do a deal. I'm going to make offers that are reasonable because I know my market. And like you said, I'm numb to it. Yeah. I've made lots of offers this year that gone nowhere. It's just that kind of market. Yeah. And even if you're a newbie, you don't need to do a deal. Like a lot of newbies think, I just need to do a deal. Even if I only make $5,000, I just need to do a deal and I need to learn. And no, you don't. You don't need to, because what happens is that's an emotional reaction to being excited. And you need to learn to control your emotions. Like you don't need to do a deal, because if you need to do a deal and you do it for 5,000 profit just to get experience and something goes wrong in that deal, then you're going to need to come to the table with like 20 grand at closing. Exactly. And who are you going to borrow that from? Because you have a project that's a mess. Like they don't see everything that can go wrong during the project. So it's, just, I think overall buying emotionally is just a terrible idea. It's like what you said with cash on cash return. It's black and it's white. Yep. Either this makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And I don't care what color the living room is or how pretty the roof is or the neighborhood, like, don't care. Don't care. So I'm curious, did you walk into this just being the cold, calculating mercenary, or in the beginning, did you have some emotions as well?
Oh yeah, totally had emotions. And I think for me, it comes back to the mentor thing.
Like that was a compliment, by the way. Don't take that. You looked at me like, what's he saying?
My husband was a real estate agent for a couple of years before I had met him, and he had owned 2 row homes. So when I first started learning about real estate, I bothered him about everything. So he was kind of like my first mentor. So I would be like, what about this house? What about that house? We should offer this. Why can't we offer that? We should offer higher. Why didn't we offer that? I went through everything the typical newbie goes through. And my husband would just constantly come back and be like, no, because it doesn't make sense. And I'd say the same stuff. I'd say, but this other flipper bought it and they paid this. And he would be like, reality check, April. Like, that doesn't mean they made money. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that they made the profit you would want to make. So like, even now there's flippers in my area that'll take a super slim profit, or they will.
Yeah. They want to keep their teams busy.
Yes.
What the heck?
Yes. Or they'll pay more because they can get their labor cheaper, but then they're also babysitting their contractors. So my husband's like, do you want to babysit your contractors? Because you can pay more if you want to babysit people who don't really know what they're doing. And I'm like, you're right. No. So after hearing that, it might take a couple times.
Yeah.
So don't get mad at your mentor who's telling you that, because you want a mentor that's brutally honest with you and going to tell you, look, this is how it is. I understand you feel emotional about it, but the numbers didn't work. That's it. Like, the numbers didn't work.
Yeah. And I brought that up because we all start there. You all see April now, this lady's just crushing it out there, going on a whirlwind United States vacation in an RV because she can, but we all start as newbies. You're not magically born with this. No.
Yeah, definitely. We've all been there. And that's like what I say, going back to Bigger Pockets. I was on Bigger Pockets and just like answering questions and commenting and finding people and sucked in. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, 3 hours of my day passed. How long am I going to let this happen to me till I just get off of this site and I stop doing
Do a deal. Yeah. Do some research.
Get focused and get a legitimate coach. And
very cool.
We've all been there.
Nice. Yeah. Again, that's why I asked the question the way I did, is because we all start somewhere. Any closing comments? I love the chasing butterflies and rabbit holes. And I think hopefully people have heard us. It's okay to have smaller goals. Everybody, 20 minutes a day. We all start in the same place. It's possible. I think this has been a very good conversation.
Yeah. I think just like get focused and set that goal that's reasonable. It's okay. Like, I still want you to dream big and think big, and I get all that, but break that down into steps and just like crush that first goal and that first step and then go to the next step. But don't try to like tackle the whole thing at once. Yeah.
Very, very cool. April, you have fun on your trip. I'll be stalking you on Instagram or Facebook, just seeing what's going on. It should be a great trip. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Michael. You too.
Thank you.